Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring something really fascinating, this bridge between ancient practices and, well, modern science.
Yeah, it's all about the connection between fermented foods and the gut-brain axis.
It's pretty surprising, actually, how wisdom from places like the Himalayas seems to line up with the latest scientific stuff.
It is, isn't it? I mean, for centuries you had traditions like Ayurveda, Tibetan healing, Korean fermentation. They all seem to know, intuitively perhaps, that diet really affects our minds.
Right. So today we want to dig into that core idea. Can these fermented foods genuinely impact our mood, our thinking, maybe even consciousness?
That's the big question. We'll be looking at examples like dosas in Ayurveda, kimchi in Korea, maybe some Tibetan traditions too.
Exactly. And trying to understand how these foods, these staples from way back, can actually affect us, our modern lives and well-being.
Okay, so maybe we should start with the basics, the gut-brain axis itself.
Good idea. Explain that a bit.
Well, it's basically this complex communication network. It's two-way, connecting your digestive system directly to your brain.
Like a hotline.
Sort of, yeah. It uses nerve cells, neurons as messengers, hormones acting as chemical signals, and, this is key, the trillions of bacteria living in your gut, your microbiome.
And this constant chatter, this communication, it actually affects things we feel every day, right? Like anxiety,
Yeah.
or even just that gut feeling.
Absolutely, it has a real impact. And here's a kicker, something from the Harvard research we looked up.
Oh yeah, that stat was amazing.
Get this. Apparently 90% of your serotonin, the happiness hormone, it's made in the gut, not primarily in the brain, like you might think.
90%, that's huge. It really puts gut health center stage for mental well-being.
Exactly. And that's where fermented foods enter the picture. Because the fermentation process, it naturally cultivates these beneficial bacteria, probiotics, basically.
So eating fermented foods is like reinforcing the good guys in your gut ecosystem.
Precisely. You're supporting that whole intricate system.
Which brings us to some of the more, let's say, mystical aspects our sources touched on, like the Himalayan concept of soma.
Ah, yes, soma, described as this fermented elixir, supposedly linked to higher consciousness.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could that have been some kind of ancient understanding of probiotics? An early attempt to harness these effects?
It's a really thought-provoking link. I mean, we can't definitively say soma equals modern probiotics, obviously.
No, of course not.
But it does suggest these ancient cultures observed something. They valued the effects of certain fermented substances on the mind long before we had the microscopes in the labs.
And now, modern science is starting to offer some validation, which is fascinating.
Like that Stanford study you mentioned earlier.
Right, showing that eating fermented foods actually reduced inflammation markers more effectively than just upping fiber intake alone.
Which is pretty strong evidence supporting these age-old practices, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Okay, so we've established this gut-brain link, the potential ancient awareness, the modern science.
Yeah.
Let's maybe zoom out a bit.
Yeah.
Look at how widespread fermentation is globally.
Yes, because this isn't just one culture's thing. It's everywhere, woven into the history of food across the planet.
So give us some examples. India, perhaps?
Okay, India. Our sources mention dosas, those delicious fermented lentil and rice crepes, and also kanjika, which sounds like a sort of kefir-like drink.
And in Ayurveda, they were used for?
Primarily digestion, but also for mental clarity, so that mind-body connection was already there.
Interesting. And Korea. Kimchi obviously comes to mind.
Oh, absolutely. Kimchi is central. And we found that reference to a 2021 study.
The one linking kimchi consumption to lower stress levels.
Exactly. Suggesting a direct impact from those lactobacillus bacteria found in kimchi on how people felt. Pretty remarkable.
It really is. What else?
Well, there's China with jamshui fermented greens, traditionally seen as a longevity food. Then you've got the Mediterranean, kefir, yeah. Another ancient fermented milk drink often linked to a long and healthy life.
It almost sounds like the yogi's ancient secret, doesn't it? Linking gut health back to something as subtle as intuition.
It's a really compelling idea. It reinforces that the benefits go way beyond just the physical. They might touch on our cognition or, well, our intuitive sense.
So wrapping this all up, what stands out most is this clear line, this thread connecting ancient wisdom about food with really modern, cutting-edge science.
Precisely. It's a powerful validation. Eating these foods isn't just about, fiber or vitamins.
It's about mental well-being, too.
Deeply interwoven with our mental state, potentially even our intuition, as we just discussed.
It really makes you think then. Fermentation stops being just a cooking method. It becomes this link between tradition and discovery. a way to nourish body and mind.
Yeah, and it leaves you wondering, doesn't it, what other ancient practices might be holding similar keys to our well-being, just waiting for science to unlock them?